are likened to a cow. The cowherd boy is Krishna. The calf is Arjuna. People of purified intellect are the drinkers of the milk. And the milk is the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 22. We are in the chapter the renunciation of actions through knowledge. Remaining satisfied with what comes unasked. For having transcended the dualities, being free from spite, and equipoised under success and failure, such a one is not bound even by performing actions. Yadicha labha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha samasiddha vasiddhau cha kritva picha na nibadyate. Remaining satisfied with what comes unasked. Now, we are speaking about a person who has risen to a level of knowledge where actions do not bind the person, because the sense of agency that I am the doer is absent. Can such a person function in this world even without a sense of I am the doer? Sri Ramakrishna says, I am the doer. This is ignorance. God is the doer. This is knowledge. This person, as we've been discussing, has risen to this level of understanding that God is the only doer. And so, person is satisfied with what comes his way, his or her way, even without seeking. There are certain things which are inevitable for the maintenance of one's body. If one has become embodied, one will be guaranteed food and drink to maintain that body. Of course, there are some people who are in famine-stricken areas. But you see, what happens is it's more of a mismanagement than any other thing. But generally speaking, when we embody ourselves, food and drink or whatever is there to sustain this body, these experiences will come to you even unasked. That's the nature of the world that is trying to help you survive, so that the soul can rise to higher and higher experiences, and through knowledge. So it is the responsibility of nature in a way to keep you alive. Of course, you're saying that people die. Yes, when these experiences of the soul in this particular body are getting over, or are over, it will transition. The other fact is, when the soul is going to be born, that soul is, as it were, omniscient. omniscient. How come the soul is so stupid? And then, well, there's a popular saying, this soul, he checks out everything in this universe and sees there's nothing like it which is going to be embodied. Nobody looks like him or her. Nobody is like him or her. That is that uniqueness of the soul. There is no kind of similarity between one soul and the next, one experience and the next. So nature, as I say, come, ehi, come for the embodiment. And the soul embodies and sees there is nothing, there is no similar kind of soul. Even twins that are born, they look exactly like this. They'll dress exactly, but they are both distinct personalities. So the idea is, when things are ordained for you, just keep quiet and don't hanker, don't beg. In this world, we are more like beggars, begging for this, begging for that, begging for name and fame and a morsel of food and this, and begging. Be like an emperor. I have come here, and the whole of nature is here to help me. So why should I keep on debasing myself with this idea that I am poor, I need to beg, and I've got inadequacies? No. You come with adequate knowledge, you come with adequate experience, and you have to further this knowledge and experiences. Don't put your mind on these small things. Who's going to look after me? Who is going to protect me? What's that? When you have the Lord who looks after every aspect of creation, you kind of let go. So this is remaining satisfied with what comes unasked. Yadricha labha santush. Santushta is to be satisfied. Yadricha labha is whatever comes unasked. This is one of the traits of a person who is established in knowledge, and yet that person is working. That person's work is an aspect of knowledge. We might see that this person is working sometimes very hard, but that person, for subjectively, that person is nothing but manifesting knowledge. People might misinterpret and misread or interpret it as, oh, this guy is busy. So that dependence on God has come, the kind of impeccable dependence. It's not, I depend on God for everything. When good things come my way, I depend on God and things, everything comes. But when bad things come, then all your dependence goes away and you keep on depending yourself on your own ego, on your own strength, and which is very fragile. Having transcended the dualities, joy, sorrow, cold, hot, happiness, misery, pain, pleasure, this person is equipoised. That is the test of knowledge. Equipoise. Not being buffeted by each and every wave that comes your way. A wave comes this side and it throws me off that side. Another comes and I'm thrown this side. Why? You see, in fact, if nature is there to help you, it's also helping you to stand on your own feet. Not be a pushover with every small thing that comes your way. So this person is equipoised in pain and pleasure, in joy and sorrow. This is a mind that is settled. Being freed from spite. Yes. There are some people who are very nice, but there is an undercurrent of spite. That love doesn't ooze out in that person's silence or his words or thoughts. There's always a kind of a dissatisfaction. There's always a kind of sense of superiority. I am superior to these people. So I may be a perfect gentleman, but in my words and thoughts, there is a kind of a spite there. Oh, these guys are kind of dumb. And also equipoised in success and failure. This is important. These things will come. These are teachers. It's not that every person will keep on becoming more and more and more successful all the time. You have failures also, because this is the nature of the world. This is the nature of duality. You'll meet success, you'll meet failure. Sometimes throughout the day, sometimes throughout your life. Both are welcome. So once you understand the nature of both success and failure as teachers, you become sama, as they say. Sama is equipoised, balanced. Siddhau or siddhaucha in success and failure. So kritvapi na nibadhyate. And even when that person is living and performing all actions, these actions do not bind that person. As simple as that. Because this person has transcended the ordinary realms of individuality. This person sees God within himself or herself. That God is the doer and nature is there. Nature is now more like a helper for all my evolution. So this is how we keep on getting more and more mature. So remaining satisfied with what comes unasked, for having transcended the dualities, being freed from spite, and equipoised under success and failure, such a one is not bound even by performing actions. This is important because actions, karma, is both a source of bondage and a source of liberation. The best way to attain liberation is through karma. And this is what Swami Vivekananda emphasized in this age when everybody is so active and busy. There's a mantra, constant mantra everywhere. I have no time. You find children also saying, I have no time. You have old people also saying, I have no time. Everybody is kind of busy and busy and busy. You ask, what are you doing? I'm so busy. But what do you do? Oh, you don't know. I have this and I have that and I have this and that. Constantly you keep on saying, I am busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. That's because the mind is not still. When the mind is still and one can concentrate on work, you can accomplish a lot of work in less time. Now we know when people say, I'm very busy, yeah, that person's mind is restless. Because the more you concentrate on a particular thing, the less time you will need to accomplish it. It's obvious, When you put a mind in a task, you can accomplish it more quickly. If you are distracted, you will take hours and hours. A person is reading, studying, and that thing is not entering that person's head. He reads it once and twice and thrice and again revise it before examinations. There. Yeah. She knows that. No, we all know that. So, focus. When the person is focused, that person accomplishes a lot of work in less time. So actions are very powerful. It's a powerful factor for liberation, and it's also a powerful factor for bondage.
I just feel that one of my math teachers once told me.
We can take your statements and comments after. Okay. So you just need to kind of change your attitude towards that work. Work done with a sense of agency and with a hope of rewards or expectation. That will bind you. The moment you remove these two factors, then it's over. It becomes liberation. So this person was working, constantly busy. Did you ever see Swami Vivekananda taking it easy somewhere? Putting his feet up. Oh, I'm a great, you can say, person of knowledge. I don't need to work. These people are constantly working. That's a test of knowledge. Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, all the great saints, you find them extremely engaged in work. Compared to them, we are very lazy bones. You see, Holy Mother saying nowadays girls say, we don't have time, we are busy. But I used to repeat God's name 100,000 times, and yet I was busy throughout the day working. And from early morning to late night, Mother used to be extremely busy. Busy from an objective standpoint. From the subjective standpoint, Mother was nothing but manifesting knowledge. This is the test of knowledge. You will work even harder. When we were young, we used to, now we are going to become monks and now free from so many problems. In a way, but we got into bigger problems. That little responsibilities now became big responsibilities. Oh my God. So somebody is saying, from the frying pan into the fire. But we understood from the very beginning, yes, this is the test of what your personality, your personality that's based on knowledge. They'll be very busy, but yet there will be a tremendous sense of freedom inside. That person will not work under any impulsion, selfish impulsion, not to play to the gallery. Oh, there's a huge concourse of people applauding me, yeah, so I will work. No, that silent, simple work that's going to transform lives. That person has already transformed himself. It's going to transform life. These are the real doers of good. Not people who take a kind of a trumpet and you have 10 photographers, clicking pictures and this. That's not work. The real work is this. Slow, silent, quiet, with an unmistakable influence on the world. These are the powerful people. So this person is working throughout, and yet that person is not bound by his actions. So we have the 23rd verse. You have the book. I'll read my translation and you can get an idea of this. Chapter 4, verse 23. Gatasangasya muktasya jnana vastita chetasah yajnaya charata karma samagram praviliyate. It's a beautiful verse. You know what? The Lord is leading us to the concept of work as sacrifice. Okay? If work is done as a sacrifice, then it becomes really powerful. It becomes a kind of a worship, constant worship. Of the liberated person who has got rid of attachment, whose mind is fixed in knowledge, karma undertaken for a sacrifice gets totally destroyed. Karma. So, Gata Sangasya, one who is liberated. Muktasya is one who is liberated, one whose attachments have all gone. One who is liberated from the bonds of karma, one who is free from all attachments, one whose mind is fixed in knowledge. Now, this person, as said, what is mind is fixed in knowledge? As we have seen in the preceding verses, one who sees action in inaction, one who sees that in action there is an aspect of actionlessness, that of consciousness. So if that person sees this, realizes this, that within action there is inaction, and action in inaction. We had seen Swami Vivekananda example of a person who is walking down the streets of LA. If he's taken and put in a cave down deep in the Himalayan caves and asked to meditate, that guy will go crazy. And if a person who's been meditating in a cave or in a forest is taken and put out on the streets of LA, that guy will go crazy. The idea is to balance both. When the person is walking down the streets of LA, his mind is calm, as it were, it's in the cave. And that person who's in the cave meditating or in the forest, that person, his mind is extremely active, not restless, active in concentration. So this is action in inaction, and inaction in action. That person is wise, that person is a yogi, that person is the accomplisher of all things. As we've seen in this verse, preceding verse. So this person sees this, the actionless self in the midst of the actions of nature, in the karma of nature. The person has separated these two entities. This is the Atman, this is nature, Prakriti. He or she can see the clear distinction. We have taken the Atman for nature and nature for the Atman. It's a mutual contradictory superimposition. That is where we get bound. Atman, I know I am the body. The ideas of the Atman are superimposed on the body and mind. And the body and mind, etc., are superimposed on the Atman. I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm tall, I'm long, and the Atman can never be all that. So there is a mutual contradiction there, because there's a mutual superimposition. The qualities of one are superimposed on the other. And we get caught. We get kind of squeezed between the two. Now if we can understand the clear distinction between consciousness and that which is non-Atman or the nature, we become free. Muktasya, the person who is liberated, that person is not going to get attached to anything. Gata sangasya muktasya. That person is not attached to anything. Of the liberated person who has got rid of all attachment, whose mind is fixed in knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of the Atman. Because the Atman consciousness is the source of all knowledge. All source of all sacred and secular knowledge. It is the source of all knowledge. And we should not make a distinction between this is profane knowledge or this is secular knowledge and this is sacred. No. Vedanta is very clear in this. Every aspect of knowledge can lead you to the highest goal, every aspect. And that's why in India we have a person who's a musician can realize God with music. The person who's a dancer can realize God with dancing. A person who's a scholar, person is anything, whatever. That person can realize God through whatever action that person performs. There is no separation between the sacred and the secular. Everything is sacred because the Atman is everywhere. So once this is understood, your mind gets fixed in knowledge. Nothing is insignificant. But does performance of work lead you to the highest knowledge of the Atman? Yes. Because the Bhagavad Gita says, all actions culminate in knowledge. Sarva karma kilam partha jnane parisamapyate. All actions, they leave a kind of an experience in your mind. What is experience? It is a type of knowledge. It is a knowledge. So all actions will lead you to knowledge. This is the secret of knowledge. Don't ever think that this is lower knowledge and this is higher knowledge. It is knowledge. And this person whose mind is established in knowledge, whose mind is fixed in knowledge, he or she will see knowledge everywhere. Even a snowflake, even a grain of sand, a flower will give him or her the highest knowledge. It will reveal the nature of God. You know, there is a story, it's not a story, right? It's an incident. Bhagwan Buddha was with his thousands of disciples, all disciples sitting down there. He takes a flower and just drops it. And out of 1,000 disciples, only one of them smiles. And Buddha looks at him. That guy has understood what is behind this action, what is behind the dropping of the flower. And that later on, he was Mahakassapa, and that became later the Zen school of Buddhism. Later, he went to China and all that, and then he reached Japan. Every action is, suffused with action. I have seen monks, oh my God, every action was so sweet. We used to just look and look and look at, stare at them. And we could do that for hours. But the only thing like we are so busy. Every action of theirs was so sweet. Lifting the cup and taking a sip of the tea, that itself was so you can say attractive. Their words, everything. Their minds used to get, just drawn to this. And saying, yes, that's what. Every action is through knowledge. They are hyper conscious. Their minds are not kind of fickle or not restless. They are thinking one thing and doing something else like we do. We are doing something and our mind is there. We bring a mind from there and goes there. They are perfectly integrated, and that integration comes through knowledge. The senses, the body, the mind, and the intellect, and the individuality, all is kind of flows in a beautiful stream. Because we are dissipated, we are fragmented, our stream is kind of choppy, full of waves and whirlpools and hollows. If you can keep everything stabilized, whose mind is fixed in knowledge, this is what happens. Actions undertaken for a sacrifice get totally destroyed. Now there are two meanings of it. In the old days, performing a sacrifice was a bit cumbersome. you have to get hold of this stuff and that stuff, and kind of. It was a big, you can say, trial to get all the stuff together, ingredients together, in order to perform a sacrifice. There's another meaning is sacrifice is Vishnu, Yagno by Vishnu. What is Vishnu? Vishnu we know is a kind of a personal god, one of the personal gods. But another meaning of Vishnu is all pervasiveness, that one who is all pervading is called Vishnu. So here when you say actions undertaken for sacrifice, for that all pervading reality, when you keep on sacrificing, what do you sacrifice? Yeah, sacrifice was lower for the higher. That's the ordinary idea of sacrifice. The idea of a fire sacrifice, you get all the wood and the ghee and all this, the various ingredients, and keep on pouring oblations and oblations. So all these activities do not bind you. No. Then all activities are for that reality, Vishnu, or the sacrifice. So where is the sacrifice going on? This whole universe was created out of a sacrifice. The gods sacrificed themselves in order that this creation will commence. This is what is generally understood and which we fail to remember, that this whole creation was started with sacrifice. It continues in sacrifice and it will merge in that sacrifice. So when we see this world, oh, it's a horrible world, it's a depressing world, it's a terrible world, we have missed the mark. We don't see that great sacrifice that's going on. Every person's thoughts, every person's actions are like a sacrifice. And if your life is not based on sacrifice, it's no life at all. It was in the US, Swami Vivekananda had been invited for a banquet. And he was sitting down, and there were people, and they were all, busy introducing themselves, talking amongst themselves. So Swamiji looked at a young girl sitting across the table. So he says, "Are you married recently?" She says, "Yes, Swami, I have recently married." A newly married girl, it can be easily identified, and an old old wife is easily identified. You can see that they're kind of different. So she's beaming. "Yes, I have recently been married." "Are you happy?" She says, "Yes, Swami, I'm very happy." So he said, "You're the only girl who after getting married is happy." Then her face fell. Is there no happiness then in marriage? There is, if you can take marriage as a sacrifice. There, Swamiji gives us the solution. If life is a sacrifice, it will become a perfect life. But what happens is, life is miserable because we don't view it as a sacrifice. We don't want to sacrifice anything. We want to grasp and we want to pull my way or the highway. That's not the way to live. A perfect life is a life of sacrifice. Sacrifice yourself for the good of others. So, Swami Vivekananda, in search of wealth, thou art the only wealth I have found, I've sacrificed myself unto thee. In search of, you can say, happiness, thou art the only happiness I have found, I sacrifice myself unto thee. Whatever there is good, bad, indifferent, I do not care. I sacrifice all unto thee. This idea of sacrifice, if it's part of your life, part of your thoughts, then your life of sacrifice coincides with the sacrifice that is going on in the world. It's very easy then to realize God. You will see this whole universe as I said, has begun in sacrifice, continuing in sacrifice, and will end in sacrifice. And instead of seeing this world of this beautiful sacrifice that's going on, we see the devil's dance. Obviously, because we have not learned the lessons of life. Sacrifice, love, it needs sacrifice. Work, it needs sacrifice. Everything needs sacrifice. So, why don't we do that? Well, no, you see, I have something and I want something, and we get caught up. So the moment you understand, this whole vision of this world will shift. Sacrifice. So actions undertaken for a sacrifice get totally destroyed. These actions cannot bind you at all. The mother's sacrifice, you'll see. Every aspect of life, every bird and insect and plant, everything is sacrificing itself. Yes, every moment, it's a great sacrifice that's going on. Whether you do it willingly or unwillingly, you're supposed to sacrifice. And that is what raises a person. My mind is depressed, my mind is pulled down. Yeah, you're doing things wrongly. Now do it rightly. Do it as a sacrifice. Make others more important. Make nature in front of you more important than you. Anyway, I'm a stupid guy. So what's there in me? This is a greater reality in front of me. I keep on sacrificing. My responsibility is there for the whole world. Every living being which is there, in a way, I'm sacrificing myself. We may not realize our silent sacrifices have a magnified effect on the world. But all selfish action also has a magnified effect, makes the world selfish. And the more we sacrifice, the more we are unselfish, the more we can transform the world into a better place. So, gata sangasya muktasya jnana avasthita chetasaha. So, this person here, whose mind is established in knowledge, who is free from all attachments, that person is liberated. And whatever action that person does not bind a person, because that person is sacrificing things. It is not just taking a fire. We have fire sacrifices and we pour fire and no. That's symbolic. That's symbolic of what you're supposed to be doing every moment. And why? Because it's a reflection of what's going on in this world. The gods have to sacrifice. Yeah. So this grand sacrifice is keeping on going. You see, in order to train ourselves in this kind of idea of sacrifice, in the Hindu scripture, there were the 5 great sacrifices. Pancha Mahayagna, the 5 great sacrifices. Sacrifices to the gods. And one had to do that every day. Sacrifice to your ancestors, sacrifice to the sages, rishis, sacrifice for the human world, and sacrifice for the lower creatures. Not lower, just in a way, other creatures. So, in order to do that, one had to do a daily worship. Worship is a kind of a sacrifice. You had to worship the gods. You had to worship the ancestors, remember them. You had to study the scriptures. That was a kind of a sacrifice for the sages, because they gave all these kind of this knowledge, and we owe them a debt. We are going to cancel the debt. Then guests, people hungry, Sri Ramakrishna's mother used to go out in the village and see if everyone had eaten or no. If someone was hungry, she used to give her own food. She used to go hungry. You don't need to eat every day. I don't know why this kind of, you have to eat every day to survive. Oh, that kind of thing. Sacrifice. So that was the idea of sacrifice. You should not let anyone be hungry nearby. You should not let anyone be sad nearby. It will come back on you. It will reflect on you. You will be unhappy. You will be sad. And then a portion of your food also was meant for the birds, animals, and insects. So what was happening is you are getting connected with the whole seen and unseen realms of the universe. The gods are invisible. The ancestors, the Pitris are invisible. The rishis there, they are invisible, they are visible, it's here. And then the visible universe of the world, the human world, as well as all the other beings. So you are getting connected with the whole universe, seen and unseen. You automatically become unselfish. You're forced to become unselfish. And later on, you'll say, the guy who cooks for himself or herself and eats it without offering to God as a prasad, that guy eats sin. Yeah. So even you cook for the Lord, first you offer it to the Lord, and then you partake of that remnant, the prasad. That's the idea that we follow everywhere, and especially here in Hollywood. Why? Because it purifies you. Sacrifices purify you. Prayers for others purify us. Prayers to the gods, worship, they are purified. Nothing, there's no such thing, no greater element of purity than which is found in a person who sacrifices. Sacrifice. So this person, all actions get dissipated. The next verse is, I think, it's though you all have the book, we all know this. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. So we chant it every day, 2 times or 3 times a day. And every time we eat something, we got to chant it. So it's become part of it. But we are like parrots, We don't understand the deeper implications of this verse. Yes. If you understand, there you are liberated. So Brahman is the ritual, Brahman is the offering, Brahman is the one who offers to the fire, that is Brahman. If one sees Brahman in action, in every action, one will become Brahman, one attains Brahman. So the correct translation is, you have the books, but the ladle is Brahman. The oblation is Brahman. The offering is poured by Brahman in the fire of Brahman. Brahman alone is to be attained by one who has concentration on Brahman. There is one word here, the Brahma karma. Karma, Brahma karma. What is this Brahma, Brahma, Brahma? Everywhere you say, I am the Brahman, I am the Brahman. You cannot be that Brahman, stupid. Then what is this? Brahman means the root word is bri. That which is the greatest, that which is the most extensive. That's the reality. The most extensive, the most greatest the most adored, is called Brahman. There's another way of pronouncing this word, Brahman. The traditional, you can say, scholars and monks, they use Brahman. But in our order, we say Brahman. So now, that which is the most extensive, the highest, the most adorable, the greatest, that is Brahman. Yeah, now the ego cannot be Brahman. When you say, I am that Brahman, be careful. Next time you say it. If you understand the reality and say it, then it makes meaning. But now, since we have not realized that reality, the absolute reality, what do we need to do? See, Brahman has become all this universe. It has become the individual soul, it has become the personal God, and it has become the world. So these are the three categories: the individual soul, the personal God, and nature. Jiva, Ishvara, and Jagat. Okay. Now, this personal God is not a personal God with two hands and two eyes and two ears and one nose and one mouth. Generally, this is understood as the personal God. It's not. The personal God is one whose body is nature, one who is the cosmic person. That is called a personal God in Vedanta. Like I have a body, okay, and yet I feel I am distinct from the body. The body has its, you can say, laws of nature. My mind is separate and it has its own mental laws, psychological laws. Yet I am beyond this body and mind. I have a body. I never say I am the body. Do you say that? No. It's never. I I have a body. No, I'm the body. But sometimes we say I'm fat, I'm thin. No, no. We make that again mistake. I don't know. You're not fat. You're not thin. Your body is fat and your body is thin. There is a subconscious perception of yourself as separate. So similarly, the whole of nature is the body of God. And we all are parts of that God. That is the personal God. These three things, the individual soul, Ishvara, and Jagat, Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. These three things are not three things, but they are three in one. It's one. What is Brahman then? It is that Brahman that has become this Jiva and Jagat and Ishvara. That Brahman has, through Maya, appears as this world, as living souls, and as the reality behind that, God. So, that Brahman, okay, once you understand these two categories, these massive categories of existence, absolute, that absolute is appearing as relative. Now, when you understand this, what is closest to me? Yeah, in the old days, these guys were so busy in the morning, afternoon, evening, night. They used to be doing those fire sacrifices, this Agnihotra, Homa. So they were used to these kind of symbols. Now what's happening is, there are philosophers who say that you must superimpose the ideas of reality on this ladle and on this oblation and on the fire. No, Shankaracharya is very clear. Brahman itself has become the ladle. Brahman is the fire. Brahman is the oblation. It is performed, the sacrifice is performed by Brahman. There is an actual transformation, but why don't we realize it? Well, when you look at a snake and you see it's a snake, you don't see the rope. There it is. So you're seeing something which is not Brahman, but it is Brahman in the background. Because you are seeing that, you can say, snake, and when you look closely, then you look, oh, it's not a snake, it is a rope. You will see the snake in the same place as the rope. You will not see the rope here and the snake there, you see. There's another example given, like Swami Vivekananda say, a person who was out to rob some people, he looks at something in the dark and saying, that's a policeman. A policeman taking a round, saying, oh, that's a thief. A young man waiting for his beloved thinks, oh, there she's come. And that other girl who's waiting for her beloved thinks, there's it. A child who has been hearing all crazy things, he looks at that, that's a ghost, shrieks. It appears as if it's something else. It was a stump of tree, it's appearing as, in the dark, it's appearing as a person standing, like a man or a woman or whatever. So, Purushova Sthanova. Is it a stump of a tree, or it's a person standing there? In a city, we don't really appreciate it. You go down to the forest and you'll understand. These illustrations are brilliant. So what were we doing? We were superimposing our ideas on the reality. That's a stump, the tree stump. And a policeman is thinking that's a thief, and the thief thinking that's a policeman, and the boy thinking it's a girl, and the girl thinking it's a boy, and the child thinking it's a ghost. There it is. We were superimposing. This verse is saying nothing, but you must take away all your superimpositions. Your ideas of superimpositions are false. What is the reality, underlying reality? That is Brahman. Why don't you see that Brahman here? And the moment you can see it, what do you see? The ladle is Brahman, the oblation is Brahman, the fire is Brahman, performed by that Brahman. Everything is suffused with that reality. This verse may sound kind of nice, and sounds also innocuous. But the whole of Vedanta is encapsulated in this verse. And this verse itself can lead you to the highest realization. You'll see everything as Brahman. This is the beginning, the middle, the end of all spiritual practices. So this is Brahma Karma. One who concentrates on this work as Brahman attains that Brahman. So next time when we are eating, remember, oh, there's more salt in that. It's spicy, it's sweet. You can, but you can distance yourself from this thought and remember that there is a reality, there is a sacrifice that is going on right now. And sacrifice is this Brahma Karma. Okay? We'll stop here for today. We'll take this up. We'll take part of this next Thursday, because it's so. I've not even touched it. I've just given the common ideas about this. And since we chant it 2 times or 3 times or 4 times a day, I think that's important for us to. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Just thinking about that itself is